The boxing community was caught by surprise when news surfaced that Canelo Alvarez had been sparring with Jaron Boots Ennis in preparation for his much-anticipated fight against Terence "Bud" Crawford. For many, this was not just an intriguing development, but a statement of intent from Canelo's camp. It sparked widespread debate among fans, analysts, and fellow fighters, each weighing in on what it meant for Canelo, for Crawford, and for Ennis himself. One boxing analyst began by asking a crucial question: how important could even just a couple of days working with Boots Ennis be for Canelo? Even if it's brief, it gives him the chance to feel that tempo, to experience those sudden switches of stance. Let's be honest, not many fighters Canelo has faced have been able to fight fluidly out of both stances the way Ennis does, and that's something Crawford also brings into the ring. But another voice quickly stepped in to add perspective. Hold on, I don't think Boots fights like Crawford at all. People lump them together because they're both switch hitters, but that's really the only similarity. Their styles are very different once you dig deeper. The comparison was always shaky in my opinion, because Crawford's ability to adapt in real time, his trap setting, his rhythm, none of that is the same as how Boots approaches a fight. Boots is explosive, aggressive, powerful, while Crawford is more calculated and cerebral. So yes, sparring with Ennis helps Canelo prepare for movement and athleticism, but it's not like he's facing Crawford in the gym. The first major headline came when Boxing Orbit tweeted a picture of Canelo Alvarez and Boots Ennis sparring, sending shockwaves through the boxing world. Their post read, Canelo Alvarez sparring with Jaron Ennis ahead of his bout with Terence Crawford on September 13th, sparking intense reactions across fans and analysts worldwide. Former world champion Dirrell reacted strongly, saying, "This move proves Canelo is deadly serious about this fight. He's not leaving anything to chance. Ennis is explosive, versatile, one of the most athletic young fighters out there. If Canelo's bringing him in, it's because he wants no surprises come fight night." Trainer Greg Hackett added his own perspective. People might see this and laugh, like it's some random choice. But there's nothing random about this. Crawford thrives on adaptability, ambition, relentless drive. Boots brings that same hunger, that same kind of intensity in sparring. Canelo wants to be pushed, and Boots is one of the only guys around who can push him like that. Fans underestimate the value of sparring, but this is calculated work. It's about surrounding yourself with energy that forces you to dig deeper. Not everyone, however, agreed with the hype. Veteran coach Benavidez Sr dismissed the headlines. Look, sparring partners don't decide fights. People read too much into these things. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what happens under the lights. Crawford is his own fighter, his own animal. You can spar with Boots, you can spar with whoever, but it won't replicate Bud. We focus on what we're doing, not what the other camp is up to. Respect to Canelo for making the effort, but sparring is sparring. Meanwhile, some insiders pointed out that the decision to work with Ennis carried psychological undertones. A commentator explained, in some ways, this is also Canelo's way of getting one back at Crawford. Remember, back in 2024, Boots was calling Crawford out, but Crawford didn't take that fight. He was chasing bigger names, bigger legacy, and that meant Canelo. So now, ironically, Boots is in Canelo's camp helping prepare for the very man who dismissed him. Too little too late for Boots, but valuable experience nonetheless. He's going to get better from this, his toughness, his ring IQ, everything will sharpen. Being in with an elite like Canelo is priceless. Roy Jones Jr. also chimed in with his assessment. Canelo's got to be on his A-game for this fight, no question. Sparring with Boots forces him to think quicker, react sharper. You don't want easy work in camp, you want tough looks that frustrate you. That's how you sharpen the sword. Floyd Mayweather used to talk about how Errol Spence gave him that work in camp, it made him better. Same thing here. If Canelo's struggling in sparring now, that's good, because by the time fight night comes, he'll be ready. But critics weren't shy in raising doubts. Fighter Brian Norman pointed out, look, Boots is sensational, but he doesn't really mimic Crawford. People say they're alike because of switch hitting, but outside of that, there's no real comparison. Crawford's tactical traps, his ability to switch rhythm on you, that's unique. Boots is about pressure and explosiveness. It's still great work for Canelo, but let's not pretend this makes him fully ready for Crawford. It doesn't. Another analyst highlighted the double-edged sword for Ennis himself. On one hand, he's gaining invaluable experience with an all-time great like Canelo. On the other, what if down the line he ends up fighting Canelo? Wouldn't it feel awkward that you sparred him before? Sometimes sparring can make future fights tricky. Still, at this stage of his career, Boots probably benefits more than he risks. He's still building his name and sharpening his skills. He needs this exposure. The discussion then turned to Canelo's current state compared to his prime. British analyst Ade Oladipo offered a sobering reminder. The best version of Canelo I ever saw was in the Golovkin rematch in 2018. That was peak Canelo, sharp, elusive, powerful. That was 7 years ago. Since then, he's still elite, but the legs aren't the same, the output has dropped, the desire sometimes looks questionable. He hasn't been fighting the best recently either. John Ryder, Edgar Berlanga, William Skull. Solid names, but not elite. So the question is, can sparring with Boots really bridge the gap between today's Canelo and Crawford, who's arguably at his peak momentum after dominating Errol Spence? That's why people say this is a 50-by-50 fight. Others noted that sparring with someone like Ennis is less about replicating Crawford perfectly and more about sharpening overall reflexes and adaptability. One analyst explained, "You don't need a carbon copy of Crawford. What you need is someone who forces you to adjust constantly, who doesn't give you comfort rounds." Boots does that. He's fast, powerful, unpredictable. That kind of work keeps Canelo honest, makes him stay sharp. At the same time, some fans reacted negatively, particularly Crawford loyalists who accuse Boots of betrayal by helping Canelo. One commentator passionately addressed this. This whole traitor talk is nonsense. Boots owes nothing to Crawford. When Boots was calling him out, Crawford wasn't interested. He was chasing Spence and bigger fights. This is a business. Boots is getting paid, getting experience, leveling up. That's what he should be doing. Fans need to stop acting like this is some kind of moral issue. It's boxing. Others pointed to the optics. Look, it's not just sparring. It's an African-American fighter joining a Mexican camp to prepare for another African-American fighter. That's where some of the backlash is coming from. Boxing has always carried these layers of identity, nationality, pride. Some people see it as symbolic, even though it's really just business. Still, the majority of analysts agreed that Canelo gained significantly from this move. One put it simply, this means Canelo is not playing around. He's not underestimating Crawford in the slightest. By bringing in Boots, he's showing respect for Bud's skills. He's saying, I want to be tested in camp, so nothing surprises me on fight night. That's what separates great champions. They look for the hardest work in preparation. When Ring magazine posted a picture of Canelo and Ennis together, the image itself stirred conversation. Observers noticed that Boots appeared bigger than Canelo in the shot. Look at that, one analyst remarked. Ennis looks like the naturally bigger man, even though he was fighting at 147 just a short while ago. He's moving up to 154 now, the same weight Crawford just came from. That's fascinating because it gives Canelo a look at exactly the type of fighter he's about to face, a smaller man moving up, but one who brings speed and power with him. Another analyst speculated about Ennis's future. I see Boots dominating at 154, maybe even 160. He's a monster physically, with the skill set to match. This camp with Canelo only accelerates his development. Yes, some fans are upset, but from a career standpoint, it's brilliant for him. Johnny Ortiz gave one of the most passionate takes. This is the perfect decision for both sides. Boots is the closest thing to Crawford Canelo could spar. He's got the stance switches, the reflexes, the dog in him. And for Boots, sparring a Hall of Famer like Canelo is invaluable. This is what great fighters do. They test themselves against the best, even behind closed doors. Yet, as Brian Norman and others warned, it's important not to overstate things. At the end of the day, Norman reiterated, Crawford is unique. No sparring partner can replicate him. This helps Canelo, yes, but it won't prepare him for every trap Bud is going to set. That's just reality. In conclusion, the sparring arrangement between Canelo Alvarez and Jaron Boots Ennis became one of the most talked about storylines leading up to Canelo versus Crawford. For Canelo, it signaled seriousness, a willingness to seek out the hardest possible preparation. For Ennis, it provided priceless experience, a chance to sharpen his skills against one of the most seasoned champions in the sport. For Crawford, it served as a reminder that Canelo was leaving no stone unturned in his preparation. And for the boxing world, it sparked debate about loyalty, styles, symbolism, and the true value of sparring. As one veteran summed it up, sparring won't decide the fight, but it shows us how seriously Canelo is taking it. That's what matters. Come September 13th, it won't be about Ennis or sparring or training camp. It'll be about Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford standing under the lights, proving who is the better man.